Hello, Internet, and welcome again to another mildly interesting episode of Insert Name Here, now with 50% more indecision in our name. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. Joining me today, we have Dan.
Yo.
And never a listener, not a fan, Nate.
Hello. Wait, does that mean you're not a fan of me, or I'm not a fan of things?
Yes.
Oh.
So, today we are talking about the Battle of Geonosis, and it's a bad one.
It's a pretty inconsequential battle overall for the overall things. It's mostly just getting the introduction of both the clones and the Jedi, and then the Separatists, increasing production, going towards full-scale war.
But hey, it nearly got rid of the Jedi on its own, so win for Palpatine?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Jedi have technically been established before this movie. Also after this movie.
They're not really established in taking place in galactic affairs like a giant war, but and that's really what this is them spearheading the attack with things.
I mean, I don't know why the Jedi would take place in a war. Their code really seems more of, we are arbiters or judges more than, warriors.
Since when did the Jedi stick to the Jedi Code, though?
Yeah.
True. That's been pretty inconsistent.
Yeah.
They do it when it's convenient.
Pretty much. I mean, it was, Sidious kind of manipulating things behind the scenes, but that's not really shown in the movie at all.
It's told, never shown.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So, the battle begins, stupidly enough, with space wizards attempting one of the worst rescue missions I've ever seen. Jumping into an arena and slowly getting surrounded while insisting that the evil space wizard is under arrest.
It's almost like they didn't intend to fight.
Yeah, it almost seems like that, and they were doing it to save, a Jedi Master, or it wasn't a Jedi Master, it was a Jedi Knight and a Jedi Padawan and a Senator.
After taking 84% casualties, Grand Wizard Yoda shows up with a clone army, which immediately begins the attack with only personnel carriers, no bomber support, and ground APCs that seem to have a top speed of 10 miles per hour. I personally would have given the clones bicycles. They go faster and they're less likely to explode when hit. Though this being Star Wars, who could say?
Everything in Star Wars is made of explodium.
So after Clone touches it.
It is a very versatile tool and creation tool. I mean, they have a lot of it, so...
Yeah.
Yes, bicycles.
Yeah. Again, it helps when your main troops have a Midas touch for explodium.
Yeah.
I mean, really, how do planets last if everything they touch turns to explosions?
Death Stars. We
Oh
got
god,
Death Stars.
the Death Star was just made of ground-up clones, wasn't it?
Probably. And slaves.
Makes a whole lot more sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the start of the battle, you would think that they would send in the clones first, to help surround the area, but no, the Jedi get surrounded, and then the clones come in, and it's like, which one's more expendable? You would think the clones. They have a lot of them.
I mean, yeah, that was my very first note is, why are the Space Wizards willing to sacrifice so many of their members to save 2 Space Wizards and a Senator?
How many of the Jedi knew that the clones existed at that point?
I think
considering
Obi-Wan Kenobi and Grandmaster Yoda, maybe the Council.
Well, they came in on the last.
You're assuming they have good communication.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
As I recall, he did call into the Council and saying, "A clone army!" And everyone's going, what is he talking about? I need to go look at this clone army for myself.
Yeah, but I mean, immediately, the clone army is immediately there. So you think that there would be some communications, and considering they have air superiority, they should have used that to their advantage, rather than,
it's
just
easy to
dropping
get air
troops.
superiority when your opponent doesn't have anti-aircraft guns. Or aircraft.
The CIS did not use or have in that. It does show in one of the games that they did have some fighter anti-artillery, which, bombers as well, but that's not really canon. It's, the old Xbox game.
Yeah.
More canon than the new Battlefront.
I still want my Pink Vader. I would destroy everything with the Pink Vader.
Now there's a sense of pride and accomplishment.
Wouldn't it be Pink Vader?
I'm going to kill you now.
With the power of my mind.
With mind bullets! So, I just want to say with the ATTE, we recorded this episode once already, and audio didn't record on us. So, at the beginning of World War I, the Austro-Hungarians decided that all trains would move as fast as the slowest train was capable of going. This resulted in the Austro-Hungarians mobilizing at 10 miles an hour.
Which is faster than they were marching, so that's something.
Still, in a war they were trying to be very quick and mobile in, and I like the design of the ATTE. I really think it's a cool looking design. However, it's so impractical. I mean, most of its weapons are forward facing.
Yeah, there's very few small arms fire, and you want specialized vehicles to support them, which weren't available. And they use mostly the battle cannon on it for artillery, which, by the way, they don't bring any artillery to the fight, which is a very...
They did bring some artillery.
Yeah.
It was poorly designed artillery, in my opinion.
It was a specialized unit that was meant to take down, a single target mostly, rather than, wide area, which you would want,
To be fair, how much explosive ordnance is actually used in Star Wars?
From what we've seen, none.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, they entirely rely on energy weapons.
Yeah.
Which... I'd really like to see what would happen if a decent ballistics engineer came in the setting.
My understanding is that a lot of the body armors, clones, stormtroopers, etc., were highly resistant to ballistic weaponry. However, space wizards weren't, because they didn't wear the armor. They relied on their sword to block all weapons. And the amount of time that a bullet would pass through a lightsaber was not enough to vaporize it. It, at best, could be liquefied, meaning that the space wizard would be hit by a bunch of liquefied metal traveling at relatively high speeds.
Which is probably
Same
worse
speed as
than
the bullet, even.
Yeah. It's just probably
gonna be
worse.
More or less the same, unless it doesn't kill you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But, see, the thing is, Kevlar, other ballistic fabrics, and certain ceramics are pretty resistant to bullets themselves. We don't use energy weapons on modern battlefields.
To be fair, we haven't been able to create efficient ones yet.
No, but it's also possible to make ammunition that will punch through modern body armor, more or less.
Yep.
And even your standard NATO round can kill someone in full body armor. It might take a luckier hit, but it can happen.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the time people are using cover, which is not used at all during this battle. They just run straight across the field, and they're not really showing any of the terrain that's in the movie. It's it's almost like a fantasy battle where they're going across the open fields, running straight at each other.
Those clones were marching in parade formation, being led by dudes with swords, at an army of droids marching in parade formation.
Hey, if it's good enough for Napoleon and Wellington, it's good enough for me.
But
and apparently for science fiction armies.
I get the droids. They're so mass-produced and just sent out in waves that, it's like, why bother with advanced tactics until needed? But I don't get the clones using those tactics. They've actually trained and don't need to be programmed.
Just not to mention they're still more or less human. They're going to have some degree of self-preservation instincts. I don't care how much you try to program that out.
Just like in the simulations.
I don't care how much a sci-fi or any setting insists that they've,
Actually, you want them to have self-preservation instincts.
Yeah,
they're an investment.
I don't care how much they insist that, they've indoctrinated them to not care about casualties. No, they are going to care about casualties.
If only because the more losses you take, the less mission capable you are.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's like I don't care if my friends die, I care if I die.
Yeah.
And having my friends to soak up an additional bullet is a good idea, so I'm going to keep my friends around.
Yeah.
Nate,
Explains
I
so
hope
much.
you know your role in life.
I'm a meat shield. I fully accept that.
So, another thing I wanted to talk about was the B2 battle droid. I'll give the B1 a lot of slack just because it was a resurfaced droid not originally intended for warfare. I am not giving that to the B2 battle droid.
Watch those wrist rockets.
That is just a really bad design. For one, it looks extremely top heavy.
Help, I've fallen and I can't get up.
I mean, that happens to the C-3PO bot that has its head and falls over and can't get up, and R2-D2 fixes his head.
Please don't remind me that scene ever happened. That was...
Really bad.
I want to like things. Star Wars, you make it difficult sometimes to like things.
JK, we still love you anyway.
I
Well,
know it's an
no.
abusive relationship, but I still love you, Star Wars.
The prequels were best for all the memes that were introduced.
Yeah, so far prequel memes is winning the meme war.
So is Taco Bell.
They're winning the food war.
No, that's tied.
So back to the B2 battle droid after that extensive rant about politics. Thank you, Nate.
It's like 3 sentences.
No, I had to make the joke. It is just a really... I get the whole weapon on the end of your wrist. I get that. That's kind of effective. Not on a droid.
You
Well, it's the
just,
same concept as a pistol grip.
yeah, well, unless there's, the targeting realized in the arm and going up, but
Still, I'm pretty sure they had the time and resources to make a more efficient battle droid that costs less resources than the B1 battle droid.
yeah,
Anakin
well,
Skywalker built C-3PO in a hovel with a box of scraps. Droids are cheap in Star Wars.
In the extended lore, he actually found C-3PO mostly intact. He just reassembled him.
yeah.
He still did it with no real training and a box of scraps.
Yes, so I mean, they seem to be pretty easy to put together and easy to maintain.
Well, and this is one of the things that we bring up is we know that the CIS had a lot of funding issues, especially early on. That's why they, had the banking clan come in because they were able to provide money for them. And so, you either buy, the top grade stuff or you go for the Chinese knockoff, and they went for the Chinese knockoff just to mass produce things. And
Still, I think they could have made a better design that was cheaper than the B1 or B2 battle droid.
most likely.
Yes.
For
For one, legs are just really complicated.
I know, right? It's a primary problem we have with robotics today is legs.
Well, this is, you kind of think about it as well, is there aren't any really specialized droids at this fight. You only have the spider droid, the Hellfire tank, and then those little
And supposedly the B2s.
four-wheelers. Yeah, and the B2s. So this is also one of the production facilities that they're just unveiling, so they're kind of streamlining everything out at this point.
I bringing up the Hailfire droid, the IG-227 Hailfire droid. I don't like this droid. It's an interesting design, but its rockets seem to be unguided, and my standard problem is artillery firing when, it's artillery moving through the open field firing at the enemy.
Oh, for the viewers that aren't familiar with the designations, this is the droid with the rocket mounts and 4 legs, was it? Or
No,
is this
no,
the
no,
wheels?
This is the
The
wheel
wheels.
one. Theoretically, our editor will be able to put in a picture for us. Get on that.
Work harder, John.
But also the OG-9 homing spider droid, the spherical one with the 4 legs. Once again, picture will be added in editing. This thing seems way too big and has too few weapons for its size.
It almost seems like it's supposed to be an anti-infantry unit where you go
It's
across with the laser,
It's officially an anti-tank weapon.
which is really weird because you would think that it would, across the lines of the clones and wipe them out like a Colossus from StarCraft 2, going meh, meh against them. But it only fires for like a quarter of a second, so what could that really do against a vehicle, to be honest, when it has heavy plating in the front? And then it can't really it can't fire out of its cone because its legs are so tall that it can't fire past them without hitting itself. Although there are some redundant things that work against that, even on our current military craft in the U.S., where it can't fire at the craft itself with computer chips.
I don't like intentionally making it. I understand that some weapons you can't put in a place that will potentially not hit the craft itself. However,
Machine guns on prop planes.
Yeah, but like that seems really like it was designed to get the vehicle in the way of its own weapons, not thought about where the weapons are going and then designing the rest of the droid.
Well, one of the things that we haven't really brought up is the intentions of this fight as well. And so the CIS is trying to push out as many of their vehicles and droids as they can, so then their leaders can escape on the ships.
It's primarily the CIS is trying to retreat because each of the spheres that was taking off, as I recall, contained enough droids to siege a planet.
That takes a lot of droids.
Yeah, it was an insane amount of droids each.
Yeah,
Some do not look that big.
Like,
They're big, but...
Well, I mean, the droids were capable of folding up and then being transported.
Yes, I'm aware of this.
Yeah,
They
but
did not look that big.
So that's why I'm going to give a lot of pass to the CIS, because they're just trying to put out as many as they can.
They're in the middle of an evacuation.
Yeah, and
so they're just like, okay, droids, stay and fight. Everything else, get on the ships.
Yeah, and primarily if they succeed in that, there's none of their leaders besides Jango Fett, which he's not really a leader, he's a mercenary, is killed of note in that fight. Dooku's able to escape, which Yoda says at the beginning that we have to take out Dooku in order, or he will rally more systems behind his back. So
these were the only nods to strategy described in the movie, by the way.
Mm-hmm. It actually explains why Yoda was fighting Dooku, but I still don't think that he should have, actually fought. He should have just, used his force powers.
I hate the entirety of Yoda owning a lightsaber.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that Yoda should have been so powerful in the Force that it's like, you brought a weapon. That's cute.
I would have loved it if in Episode 3 that when him and Palpatine meet up in the Senate, that Yoda just is like, or Palpatine just kind of cackles them. It's like, you lost, you can't do anything, with the entire Senate there. And then Yoda, it's not able to do anything because it would vilify the Jedi even more and go against their code. And then him just having to, go into exile or whatever, and just walk away. It's like,
but
you won this one.
we needed a CG fight.
And see, that would be an interesting character moment
Yes.
in a prequel movie. That doesn't involve one of the main characters.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and gets everywhere.
Speaking of which, Sand attacks in this movie and tries to claim Padme.
Thus justifying all of Anakin's hatred for it.
Yep. That's why he eventually, kills her in Episode 3. He's like, "You're with sand. I can't do that."
You were with Sand. You're so dirty now.
You're a dirty girl.
Oh. So
No
another
offense,
thing...
Natalie Portman, I am actually a big fan of your work.
Another thing I'd like to bring up is the Republic airborne transports.
The LAAT.
Thank you. Those things don't have shields. I looked this up. They don't have shields, and I mean, the primary craft for getting your troops on the ground doesn't have a bit of protection to it.
Well, Blackhawks and Chinooks don't have shields.
Yes, but shield generators don't exist.
Yeah, and shield generators are pretty common for back then. And you see in one of the moments that it's Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, and Yoda, and Anakin in one ship, and then the ship next to them gets blown up. It's like, the prequels could have been over right there if they were in that transport.
If only the prequels had been over, because everyone was in the wrong ship.
Yep.
But yeah, it's also shields in atmospheric conditions help reduce drag and whatnot for ships so they can fly way more efficiently and at higher speeds than their designs would often allow.
It's not just drag, it would be reducing engine wear too.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so why don't these have shields? Like,
I don't have an answer to that.
It's more dramatic to have them blown up en route.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that goes on is Anakin says, it's like, oh, target right below the fuel cells on that ship. And he's kind of saying it to no one because the pilot seat is, closed off, and it's not like he has a communicator in, so it's kind of redundant at that point where it's like, oh, the clones should know what to do anyway.
Important.
Yeah.
he's just yelling at people
I mean,
trying
that
to
really
get them to
sums
do
up
stuff.
Anakin's character arc, so...
He's just sitting there yelling at people, and they're going, does he realize our helmets don't pick up what he's saying?
Just go with it. They would like to seem like they're important. Let them feel like they're in
That
charge.
would be an amazing twist. Is the clones never actually heard any orders from the Jedi, and the Jedi were just the whole time just not actually being in charge.
Isn't that kind of the whole concept, though?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Yoda does help defend the Wookiees on Kashyyyk.
It's so good that someone acknowledged droid attack on the Wookiees.
I know, it's about time. We need more memes of it out there so we can bring this to attention.
I feel like when we get to that battle, it's going to be we're going to be a little more favorably looking on the tactics used by the clones.
Yeah.
At least we'll have a good opener image for that video.
Yes.
Oh yeah. What, a Wookiee riding in on one of their
No.
ships?
Kiadi Mundi.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really.
About time.
So that's pretty much all of my notes on this. Do either of you have any more points you want to bring up about it?
No, not really. This is the first part of, this is introducing, like, the whole civil war going on in the universe, so, the CIS and the clones, or I guess the Republic, are both ramping up for war, and this is really, Yoda says it very clearly, begun the Clone Wars have. And that really paints what this battle is the Clone Wars starting, and, the deaths that could be possible on each side. Which is what Sidious wanted in general, because he wanted, strife, and then to be able to come in and lay down the law. And he does that very well.
I mean, I've always found the best way to lay down the law is to pull a gun and yell, I am the law!
But he betrayed the law.
Mm-hmm.
But I am the law!
Wait, so you betrayed yourself?
Yes.
In your anger, you have killed yourself.
Now, I would actually like to address the whole thing about the Jedi not necessarily being suited for military command. In a lot of philosophical traditions, especially East Asian ones, I'm thinking mostly China, but you see this in Japan as well, military theory is pretty much treated as a philosophical subset. The Art of War is one of the more well-known Chinese philosophical works. It reads a lot like the Tao Te Ching, and you see it passed around Chinese philosophers for a very long time after.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unbelievable that a mostly philosophical order of warrior monks might well be versed in military theory and strategy.
And they
They don't act like it, but it's possible.
Yeah.
They're versed in military theory, not military practice.
Which is a big difference on the battlefield.
Now they seem to focus a lot on the practice, since the practical part is swinging a sword around in their case.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, blasters exist.
And their troopers don't know how to use their swords.
So I think that's it. What are you going to give a rating for both sides?
First of all, stop taking my job. Honestly, F to the clones. I'm going to be generous and give a D to the CIS. They were really doing a fighting retreat trying to get off planet.
They at least managed to achieve that objective.
They achieved that. Honestly, I could probably go higher than that.
I would actually give
It's
them
not
like
stupid if it works.
Yeah,
It's
I'd give
not
them.
stupid if it works, and really, when your army is made of droids, who cares about casualties?
Yeah, and
It's
that's
good to
costs money to
reduce them,
replace.
but you know, it's not like you're losing a sentient being every time you lose a trooper. So yeah, honestly, I will bump that up to C plus, maybe a B minus.
I'd actually give them an A because they achieved their objective and they
yeah,
were able
but they
to.
took way more casualties than they needed to.
However-
and they could have done much better. They honestly probably could have maintained their production facilities.
They actually did. They had the Republic actually left and then came back. A few days later.
Yeah,
and,
they
and then
maintained
did
their
that.
production facilities because the Republic is made up of complete morons.
Yes.
Which,
Which
if
which
you're
I-
banking on your enemy being an idiot, you're going to lose.
That's true.
Unless your enemy is really an idiot.
Even then.
hmm But again, they achieved their objective, so
It's always better to overestimate your enemy than it is to underestimate them. So, Dan, what would you give ratings?
I would probably not put the droids any higher than a C. They met expectations.
that's true.
If anything, they did somewhat worse in that I honestly think they could have salvaged a lot more material out of their operation than they did in the movie.
Yeah, but it's not really explained, other than expanded lore. So
Precisely, that's the always thing.
yeah,
So,
The Jedi, yeah.
Jedi
F,
failed.
the
Yeah.
clones, maybe a D minus.
I've never been aware of D minus being a grade. Believe me, I've tried for that. Anyways, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. Also, hi Mom, thanks for being our 6th subscriber.